Hello, hello, hello there, and welcome back to the True Crusade Stories podcast with me, Coach Mo, your favorite family finance coach, and I'm coming to you live and direct from my studio. Listen, I hope your day is absolutely amazing. Happy Friday to everyone. Thank God it's Friday. We have been blessed with another day in the land of the living, and for that, we are most grateful. And we're so excited to share another crusade story with you all. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a good one. So bring your pens, bring your papers, and dig in with us as we get into the history and a little bit of, I would say a little bit of history, not the history, but some history concerning Black finance. Okay. And so we have so much in store for you guys coming down the pike. We have some clients that have already confirmed that they will be coming on the podcast and sharing their true crusade story up close and personal. So we are most grateful for those connections and those partnerships and those people that we served through the years. And it's always wonderful. It's always just an honor to see a man, a woman, a business owner, or a family go from here to there on their financial journey. And I tell you, we are just so grateful to just play a tiny role in the forward progress of people who look just like us and who sound just like us. And that's not a black thing, right? That's not a African American thing, but that's a people thing. People who just have not received the financial literacy that they wish they had in school growing up. So I don't know about you, but when I grew up, what I learned in school about finance was how to write a check. I learned how to write a check. Nobody really talked to me about how to put the money in the bank. And for a long time, my thought process concerning a bank account was this, and don't laugh, right? And so what I would think is that when you go to the bank and you go to take your money out, the bank teller is just going to go to the back. They're going to get that shoebox with your name on it, and they're going to give you the money that's in your shoebox. And that's what I envision a bank to be. But we know that banks are so different, right? We know that banks work nothing like that. But for most of us, we would agree that we were taught, typically to put our money in a bank. And so I don't have to say it. We already know how that works out for most people, and we'll leave it at that, right? And so, listen, people don't truly want to fail when it comes to their finances. And you may have heard this saying before: people don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan. Okay? They fail to plan. Now, listen, in all my 46 years of living, I don't know a single person on this earth who has ever said, when I grow up, I want to be poor. I want to struggle. I want to live paycheck to paycheck. Have you? Have you ever heard anyone utter those words? See, when we were kids, we would say things like, I want to be an artist. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a chef. Those are the things that we would say. But no one ever said that they wanted to struggle, when they became a grown person. And so people honestly want to have a real quality of life. They want to do better. And I truly believe, and I believe that you will all agree with me, is that people just don't know what to do and are too busy focused on survival. So they can't necessarily look at themselves in the future right now because right now they have a lot of bills, a lot of responsibilities. They have kids. They have college funds that they need to gather up. They have mortgages, and they're just thinking about paying the bills on a monthly basis. And so that's when we'll see, that 75-year-old grandmother working at a large department store, standing on concrete for 8 hours and greeting people at the door. And we'll hear about the children of deceased parents becoming wards of the state because there was no will in place and nor was there any life insurance. And it becomes perfectly normal to be 40 years old and just getting started and making contributions into a 401k or an investment plan. See, these are not one offs. This has become the new norm, and we are here to change that, right? We are here to change the narrative because we truly believe that we can do that we can make that impact, that we can educate people. And we do that one conversation at a time, one family at a time. So you would agree that with the right tools, the right access, and with the right guidance, anything is possible, right? And so today I'm going to share a crusade on life insurance as it relates to the African American community again. And you may be surprised to hear some of the things that I'm going to be talking about, but know that this is factual. Okay. So we can't erase history, but we can make a great impact on our future. Amen. And so back in the day, it was illegal for Black families to have more than $1,000 of life insurance. And even me just saying that out loud almost brings tears to my eyes to know that for the Black woman, the Black man to pass down and transfer wealth to his family was against the law. And that's not to make you angry. That's not to, go back to make someone pay. But this is just to let you know where we've come from. We've come a mighty long way when it comes to our finances and our understanding of education, but we have a lot further to go. And so a transfer of wealth in life insurance is still the same today. It's a transfer of wealth, but we're going to talk about this in a little later. But there are some myths that people think concerning life insurance, and we're going to debunk those myths. Okay. And so I want to read a little bit of this article. We've done that on past episode, but I want to read a little bit of this article because I think it's important for you to hear other perspectives, right? Of course, you can hear from me, you can hear me talking all day long, but you know, let's hear somebody else's voice. And so the name of this article is called Paying a Premium, and it can actually be found on the Philadelphia Inquirer. Okay. And so not my words, not Coach Mo's words, but it's in that news reporting. Okay. And so this was posted back in 2022. And so I'm just going to go ahead and read, and I'm going to stop at a good point and then we'll discuss. So Arlene Blackston remembers the short white man who came to her grandmother's North Philadelphia door at the same time every few weeks to collect her $5 life insurance premium. Sometimes he would sit down and have a cup of coffee, she said. Most of the time, the transaction took no longer than 10 minutes. Her grandmother always paid in cash. The man would take the money, write a few words in his notebook, and be on his way. That was the routine for more than 35 years until Blackston's grandmother, Mary Ann Young, passed away at 84 years old in 1992. Now, to me, 1992 wasn't that long ago, but in essence, it was, right? All right. So in essence, that's about what, 30 years ago, if not more. Yeah, about 30 years ago. And so let me continue reading. The policy Young had paid into for more than 3 decades added up to only $5,000. It barely paid for her funeral, it says. There was nothing left over, Blackston, a retired Verizon IT project manager, recalled. Blackston, 76, learned from that experience. She purchased not one, but two policies one through her job and one on her own, with the intent to leave her three sons a financial legacy. I want them to have more than enough to bury me. Now, let me pause. I said I was going to wait to the end to discuss, but let me pause right here. And so, life insurance, again, is a transfer of wealth. Okay. And for most families, no matter what they look like, color, race, creed, it doesn't matter. For most families, the only way that they'll be able to leave a legacy or transfer wealth in their death will be through a life insurance policy. Okay. If you've ever read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, the book talks about, you know, assets, right? And it talks about the fact that a home is not necessarily an asset. And I know that some people may feel differently. So don't come for my head, right? Don't come for my neck. But an asset is not necessarily, I mean, a house is not necessarily an asset. Why? Because there will always be money due. Okay. There's always going to be the need to pay what? Property taxes on that home. You're going to need to have insurance on that home. And so, even if a home is paid off, there may be equity in the home, and that's a wonderful thing. But if the home was meant to stay in the family, someone needs to have enough money to pay those property taxes to keep up that insurance. Okay. And if those things are not done, we know that we've heard it before, and perhaps this has happened to you in the past, where that house was lost due to property taxes not being paid, things not being in order with the home. They're not able to keep up with the maintenance on the home. And how many people know that typically how a house works is that it's going to increase in equity over time, and it's going to appreciate over time, which means it's going to be having added value to it. It's going to go up in value over the course of time. And so that means that if it's going up in value, the property taxes are going up, and someone needs to be able to afford those property taxes. Would you agree? Okay. And so I'm going to come back to this article because I don't want to keep starting and stopping because we'll be on here forever. Forgive me, I had to take a sip of my water. And so listen to this. So Blackson, a retired Verizon IT project manager, recalled. Okay. So that was the last thing we read. So she talked about the fact that she got those two policies, and we'll continue. Today, African Americans are more likely than their white counterparts to look to life insurance to cover their final expenses, yet white families have significantly larger policies than their black counterparts, even when income levels are the same. My goodness. Patricia Wheatley was surprised last spring when her mother, Sylvia Franklin, unexpectedly died of COVID-19, and Wheatley discovered her mother's insurance policy didn't extend much beyond covering her final expenses. Wheatley described her mother as a brilliant woman who had several degrees in social work. So this was not, I know I said I was not going to stop, right? But this is not an uneducated woman. This woman had several degrees, but I will venture to deduce that no one ever sat her down and had a real conversation with her about life insurance. Okay? The fact that it is a transfer of wealth. And so she was one of the first on the front line of the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the early 1980s, refusing to shun patients. So she was a community worker, okay? Yet the two never spoke of her finances, and her mother didn't talk much about money in general. See, this is the consensus, you guys. This is the consensus around the horn, that people are just simply not talking about finances at the dinner table. See, when I was growing up, I never heard my parents talk about money. And I'm not talking about teaching me about money. I mean, complaining about money or talking about what they were not able to pay. And so it's just like on one of my previous episodes, on one of our previous episodes, I never heard them argue about money. If there was a struggle, I never knew it because, see, that was grown folks' business. We were not to get into grown folks' business, okay? And so we did not take the opportunity to listen in while they were talking about whatever they were talking about. But I never had an inkling that we were ever in lack at all right? But here it is, again, reiterated. They didn't talk about money in general. So it turned out her mother's policy was a type of whole life insurance disproportionately marketed to African Americans. Listen, this is firing me up. You have to know and understand the history to know what we're getting into right here. Do you guys know that Black people back in the day, when a lot of these life insurance companies first got started, we paid a premium for life insurance coverage. We paid, which means that we paid more money than other people did. They considered us more high risk than other races, other nationalities. And in some instances, when there was a policy that was written on a Black person, the life insurance agent got paid less commission to do that. Can you believe it? So there was no incentive to the company or to the insurance agent to write a life insurance policy for an African American person. And in so many ways, and it's in black and white, that they made it so hard and expensive for us to even get the coverage. And so we're talking about, injustices. We're talking about why it's important to have a crusade, a group of people banding together for the betterment and the good of others. Coming together to educate ourselves and educate others on how money really works. Okay. And so let's keep going. Small policies that people paid on forever. Tawana Ford Sabbath, co-owner of Sabbath Funeral Home in West Oak Lane, said as she reflected on the plight of substandard insurance, which is what they called it, she sees among her clientele of African American families. It is a disparity that the industry can't explain except to point to its history, which began in 1809 with the founding of America's first life insurance company in Philadelphia. My goodness. Life insurance would become an American institution, a financial service sold as a means to safeguard prosperity and protect loved ones. But it did not protect equally nor serve as an equitable engine of intergenerational wealth. It was not equal, you guys. It was not equal. Okay. And so, how can you win a game when you don't know the rules to the game? When you're not even permitted to play the game? Come on, somebody. How can you win? And so, for years and years, families have been able to pass down generational wealth, generation after generation after generation, family after family. You get 100,000, you get $1 million. We're leaving you this, we're leaving you that. Meanwhile, what we were able to get our hands on, okay, as an African American woman, was so low in value, it barely took care of a funeral. And we paid more money for it. So you're talking about an injustice. You're talking about an oppression of a people. My goodness. So let me keep reading this article because I'm never going to get done. So today, the industry's impact touches all corners of our lives. Our economy runs on big data and algorithms, successors to the actual science first developed to set life insurance rates. Research shows these formulas institutionalize racism in the mortgage industry, consumer banking, and in the criminal justice system. I'm going to stop the article right there. There's plenty of more that you can read. And you can go back and see it for yourself. They have charts, they have all different things that you can take a look at. But I'm telling you guys, it is deeply rooted. And now it is time for all people to take control and get a better understanding of where we are right now. Okay. And so reading this article, there were policies that were placed on slaves. There were slave policies. And those slave life insurance policies, unfortunately, because a lot of slaves are being killed, the companies were paying out more money than what they were taking in premium. Okay? That's how bad it was. And so I want you to go back and take a look at that article. It's on the Philadelphia Inquirer again for your reference. And there are some big name companies listed in that article that you will be surprised to see listed in there. But I am proud to say that it's not a company that I represent. Okay. Amen. 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 And amen. So again, there's so many things that we can deduce and really hear what's not being written in that article and based on our conversation today. There were things in place and still are things in place that want to keep us bound. There are powers that be, right? The powers that be that want to keep a people down, but we can't be kept down because ultimately it's our decision whether or not we want to get the information or not. And one of the best ways that I can tell you to become the trailblazer and the crusader in your family is to become professionally licensed. See, money answers all things. Here's another saying: money makes the world go round. And if we educate ourselves, we can no longer be taken advantage of. Would you agree? And so I was so excited to get my life insurance license. At first, it was because I wanted to make some additional income. But now, just having the understanding and to be able to sit down, right, with a fellow mother or a father or a family or whomever will listen and help to educate them on how their life insurance works. It is unbelievably refreshing and rewarding to have those conversations because listen, this is deeply rooted. And I can tell you that typically when we see these type of policies, because trust me, these types of policies are still out there. Well, we'll see, a grandmother who has had a policy like this one in this article for 35 years. And she wasn't paying $5 a month, you guys. So if you did the math, 5 times 12 is 60. But no, it wasn't $5 a month. It was every few weeks. He came in, had a cup of coffee, took the payment in cash, wrote a couple of things in his book, and went about his merry way. He did that every few weeks. Okay. And so so if we multiply that, right, every few weeks, so let's just say it was every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, that's at least double, okay, if not triple the $60. I'm not doing math right now in my head. And I trust that that's more than $10,000 that this woman paid into that policy for 35 years, only to reap the benefit of 5,000. Now, one would have thought that she would have been paid up, but no, they continue to take her premiums until she passed and only gave her half back. Family didn't get nothing else. So these are the type of these are the reasons why it just inspires me to go a little bit harder, a little bit longer, read another book, read another article, and not only educate myself, but educate the community, because we need to understand that many people have been kept away from these types of tables because they didn't want us to eat. Okay? People would rather you starve than to be fed. But there's a saying that I say all the time. If they don't want to give you a seat at their table, go create your own table. Go build your own table. Matter of fact, do you even need a table? Okay? How about I would rather sit down? Do I want to sit at a table? Maybe I want to sit on the couch. Maybe I don't even need a seat at your table. Maybe I want to lie in a hammock. We're just gonna change the narrative and change the conversation on that, okay? And so here it is, you guys. There are 5 myths that I've discovered that have left Black families behind concerning life insurance. 5 myths. So the first myth is this: it's only for final expenses. So now we understand why so many Black families are focused on just final expenses. Now we understand why when we sit down with a family, or um, really the consensus is that we only need enough life insurance for burial. It's because it's deeply rooted, years and years and years of conditioning and making us think that we can't afford anything else, nor will anyone give us anything else. And I'm going to tell you this, you guys. I have had so many different conversations with Black families, and I'm going to tell you, one question I get often is, how much coverage could I get? Could I get approved for $1 million in coverage? I always heard that Black people don't get approved for that much coverage. I've heard it more times than what I'm comfortable to express. And so these things are deeply rooted, and our ancestors and our grandparents and their grandparents have been spreading that because that's what it was back in the day, but that's not what it is now. Okay. And so the other myth is, I'm not trying to make anyone rich. So we have to have a better explanation than that, right? We have to have a better uh, response than that, because what is it to make someone rich these days? We're living in an economy where inflation is at an all-time high. Now, we know that double-digit inflation existed back in the day. That's not where we are right now. But who would agree that things are just really expensive, for lack of better words? Things are really expensive, and it costs more to get stuff. Okay, groceries, gas, whatever. And so to make someone rich may be to leave them millions of dollars. But $150,000 does not make a man rich, does not make a family rich. So it honestly may be enough to take care of them for a couple of years, because life insurance is a transfer of wealth, but it's also income protection. So if the breadwinner passes away, then my life insurance policy, right, if I'm the breadwinner, could be enough to take care about 10 to 15 times my annual salary, which is the industry standard. And they could potentially be okay for a while without my income coming in. Because when I pass away, my income passes away as well, unless I have financial independence, which means that I have an asset that pays me. Okay? And so listen to this. This is the next one. I have enough through my job. Now, if I could take a poll right now, and if you're listening to this on Spotify, if you've listened to this on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this, I want you to write some things in the comments and start responding a little bit here because I'm curious to hear your feedback on this. But who do you think has more of a vested interest in paying your family and taking care of your family when you're gone? Is it you or is it your employer? Who do you think cares more for your family? Is it you or is it your job? See, that's the question that you have to ask yourself first. So people may say, which came first, the chicken or the egg or the chicken? We got to put things in the right perspective. Okay? And so if I care more for my family than my employer, then what benefit or what incentive does my employer have to pay my family $500,000 in life insurance and all I paid was a penny per paycheck? We have to start making it make sense because there's another saying out there and it goes something like this. You get what you pay for. Okay? You get what you pay for. And if I paid for absolutely nothing, what can I expect? See, that's a little bit too uncomfortable for me. Life insurance through work is typically a group life insurance policy. And what happens is when I leave that job, that policy becomes very, very uber expensive for me to continue it. And if I got fired from that job, I don't even have a job. So how can I afford to pay $400 a month for life insurance at this point? You know how those Cobra benefits work. They only give you 30 days to sign up. And then if you don't sign up in 30 days, you're out. But there are some other stipulations that come along with life insurance through work. And so if you have life insurance through work and you do not have a separate policy, meaning that you have paperwork of a separate policy you do not have. Okay. And so I can share more about that in a one-on-one if you have more questions for me. Um, Four, I'll be dead. Why should I care? I'll be dead. Why should I care what my family gets? But why shouldn't you care? Okay. Why shouldn't you care? Because somebody has to bury you. Do you really want to leave your family in a financial constraint because you were irresponsible? I know that hurts, right? I know that might be a little rough. But if no one was taking care of your family while you were here, who's going to take care of your family while you're gone? See, some people assume it's going to be family. They'll do it. They'll make it work. I've had people tell me, "Hey, they'll make it work." But why should they have to make it work when you could have had life insurance for pennies on a dollar to ensure that your responsibilities, because it's not your family's responsibility, to make sure your responsibilities were taken care of. We insure our cars, we insure our cell phones, we insure jewelry, homes. Why would it not be important to insure your life? It's adulting 101, is it not? And so there's so much more I can say about that, but for the sake of time, we're going to be wrapping up here. All right. Last one. Um, $1 million in coverage is too much. Again, when we consider generational wealth, we have to consider how many people does that include, first of all. See, $1 million today is not the same $1 million it was 50 years ago or 30 years ago. It's way different. So I would venture to say $1 million today is like the new 500,000. Okay. It's like having 500,000 because inflation. We have to keep in mind inflation. Things just cost a lot more money all across the board, and usually inflation is about 3% on average. But this is not an average time that we're in, right? We can look at the news and see these are not average times. And so we always have to consider those facts, okay? And so again, in closing, money does not come with instructions. You either know what to do with it or you don't. You either figure out what to do with it and where to put it, or you may possibly be one of the people who will be working for a very, very long time. We either protect our families and we leave and we put something away for them, or we leave it up to people, right, to do that for us, and we don't know what's going to happen when we're gone. So the True Crusaders were able to help a family who was paying about $600 a month for life insurance coverage. And they had several different policies, three of which were sold to them on the same day by an insurance agent that knocked on their door, giving them three different life insurance policies. And we were able to replace all four of those life insurance policies for a fraction of the cost and put money back into the hands of that client so that they could do what they needed to do for their financial future. So that's it for today, you guys. I really enjoyed this episode. I hope you go back to listen to it again, read that article, get the facts, get licensed, get educated, so that you can not only help yourself, but so that you can help the people in your family. We need these licenses like never before. There's a lot of information out there, and if you're not careful, you may fall for the bait and switch. But we want to be knowledgeable people because we know that knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. So we have to apply what we're learning so that we can change and impact families' lives. Okay. And so I pray that you all have an amazing remainder of your day. Remember that we'll be back next Friday at 1 p.m. with another crusade story. If you need to contact me for any reason, send me an email at coachmo@trueresilience.net to schedule a Zoom meeting with me to discuss your story and what we can help you with. Again, that is Coach Mo at TRUresilience.net. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.